If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to Why Write. Hi, welcome to Why Write. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and I thank you for tuning into this episode where we find out why writers are writing so we can find out why you need to start writing your story. Today, I have a Zoom episode, as you can see, because we are cross country with Tamiko Evans from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So she obviously can't be here in the studio, but she is live here on camera with me. And I am excited to tell you all about Tamiko and get started talking about her books. I know we see one on the screen. She is the author of two contemporary women's fiction novels. One is called On the Seventh Day, and her latest one is called The Last 7 Days. And we're going to find out what this number 7 means and why it's so important in both of her titles. Tamiko is a lifelong reader, and she says, we're going to talk about this, says she came into writing later in life, and she published her first book at the age of 45. So I don't know if we consider that later in life, but we're going to talk to her about that. She is married with 2 children, and she is a self-proclaimed foodie. And it's lunchtime for us, so we're going to talk some food, and we're going to find out what her obsession with salted caramel is too. So I want to welcome to the show Tamiko Evans. Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. And I really want to say, so you published your first book at 45 and you consider that late in life. I think it's the perfect time. I mean, whatever time someone publishes a book is the perfect time, not only for them, but when did you start writing? Have you always been writing?
No, no. And that's why I feel like I was bitten by the writing bug later in life. So even though I've always been into reading, I never had the desire to write a book. And
Mhm.
even when the first story idea came to me, I thought it would be a one and done. It wasn't only until I was later close to publishing that I started getting what if what if this happened? What if that happened? And I started wanting to actually write more and more stories. Now the writing bug has bit me, and that's all I want to do
It
is
is it is so true. So you said a few things there that are super important to me because as a writer, I started the show, because when I was writing, I was like, I gotta talk to someone. I gotta feel normal. Is it normal to feel like a story came to you? And you just said like when that first story came to you, it was like, what made you decide you had to write it down? How long
I
did it
had
live in your head before you wrote it down too?
so it lived in my head probably for about 10 years.
Oh,
Um, yeah, yeah, long, long
I know
time.
that feeling.
And it was one of those things where just people I've known or knew had different they when they came to different crossroads in their life, and we all do. I mean, things happen, and we have to deal with them. And just how we as women, we have sisterhood, and we support each in different circumstances. So I had the idea, and yeah, it's like I just knew when it was time to put pen to paper.
So, when you started writing that first book, which is called On the Seventh Day, do you have a picture of it, or can you hold the
Oh,
book up because it's got some great covers too? We're going to talk about. Get these two chairs on a cruise ship. Did you outline for your story? Because I know you said it lived in your head for 10 years. How did you get it on the page? Did you set up a writing schedule? How did you get it out?
yeah. So the first book, On the Seventh Day, I didn't know anything about outlining, pantsing, planning, or anything. I thought you just open up your laptop or your notebook and you just start writing. So I pantsed it, not knowing that I was pantsing it. And what I did was I looked up how many words a novel was because I didn't want to be able just to say I wrote a book. I wanted to be able to say I wrote a novel. And so in looking at that, somewhere along the way, 500 words a day came up. So yeah, after my daughter went to sleep at night, I would lock myself in my home office and just start writing like what I could. I let the book kind of come to me.
I love that. It makes me feel normal because this is what I wanted to hear when I was starting to write because I'm locking myself in a room and writing on scrap pieces of paper and just literally doing the pantsing, not knowing that it's called pantsing either. But just to be able to have that breathing space in my head because when the whole thing's living in here, you're like, it's hard to function.
Yes, yes.
It's hard to function. Um, Not only did you say the story came to you, but then you got the writing bug, which
Hmm.
I know so well because you finish one and then you're like, wonder if I can do this again. So
Hmm.
was it the challenge of trying to do it again, or was it a continuation of like you were saying, what would happen next? Like what would happen next if you became an author and wrote more books, or what would happen next in your story?
So actually both. When I hear all the time, and I'm sure you do too, that, oh, I have this idea for a story. I want to write a book, but I just can't. I don't have time. And I think once you write that first book, regardless of how it turns out, if you publish it, just being able to write the full thing and type the end, I think gives people the confidence that, oh, wow, I can do this. So actually, the second idea that I had, the second what if idea, it wasn't the book, it wasn't the last 7 days. The last 7 days actually came about because people had reaction to one of the characters, like very strong reactions. And the funny thing is, she never appeared in the novel. She was the daughter of one of the characters, and she was just talked about. But people, they wanted to know so much about her, and I got the what if idea of what if she wasn't what we thought? What if who her mother thought she was just a facade? And that's what speared me to write the last 7 days, was to write her story.
So, you do write very interesting characters and they're very relatable and you've given them some flaws. So I know, I mean, we haven't talked about like what the books are, so we really want to find out like, how you got them done. But your first novel On the Seventh Day takes place on a cruise ship and you've
Yes.
created these women who have some real life drama going on. And, the last 7 days, I mean, it's just so interesting that in the first book, you've created a character that never appears. And then all of a sudden, the next book is about her, which is awesome. So why set it on a cruise ship? And how did you come up with like the flaws and stuff of these characters? Are they taken from your like, real life friends? And how do you protect them?
So, about the time that I got the idea for the novel, I went on my first cruise and I loved it. I went on cruises probably once a year for the next 6 or 7 years after that. So I knew I wanted the book to take place on a cruise. And
Oh,
actually,
that's
even
that's good
though,
research. That's good
yeah,
research. If
yes.
you're gonna write about being on a cruise, you should go on a cruise.
Yeah, yeah. So the cruise that actually appears in the book is not the cruise ship itself is fictional, but the itinerary and the things that the women did on a cruise were all things I did on a cruise I went on back in 2019. As far as the characters, the three main characters themselves, they're all composites of people that I know or have known. And the reason they feel relatable is because I've taken little bits and pieces, um, smushed them together, and exaggerated them. I know you and I were talking one day about you being into numerology. So it would be as if I said, what if I had a character that really let numbers like lead their lives, like to
Yeah.
the point where numbers made them, I don't know, kill somebody one
No,
day.
yeah, no, right, yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
wanted
today's
to
the
get away from.
day.
You would read that book and you wouldn't say, I talked to Tamiko about being into numbers. But you would say, oh wow, I can relate to this characters because I'm into numbers, even though hopefully you wouldn't kill somebody because of numbers.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally get it because it is, you write what you know. So,
Hmm.
you obviously can't write about someone that, you don't know that personality type. So, yeah, and the fact that you've combined them, so that, the girl might be, tall and a model and also a doctor, and it's like,
Mhm,
okay, you don't know
mhm.
one person who's all that.
Right,
So,
right.
and it's fun creating these characters, but and it's fun creating drama for the character. However, do you think you created the drama or did they bring it themselves, these characters?
Ooh, that is a good question. Um, I think they brought the drama. I knew that, who I wanted them to be and where I wanted them to go, but how they got there, they told me, and I just wrote it out.
That it's just it resonates so well because I feel like when my characters were starting to tell me things that I didn't want to write, it was very difficult. I mean, I did a murder mystery. That's this one,
Mhm.
and I have a play that I wrote called In the Middle of the Night, which is about I mean, it's about a writer fighting with her muse, but the muse is telling the story of how she was raped in the military. And it was
Oh.
not a story I wanted to write. And let me tell you, as I'm writing it, I'm shredding pages. So I'm like, this is not what I want to write. Like, I'm thinking now, like, I want to go on a cruise and write about something fun. Instead, I'm walking the woods and researching murder scenes. It's like,
Mhm,
wait a
mhm.
second. So for writers out there, if you're trying to create a story, you might want to consider what kind of research you want to do for the story. But like we said earlier, the characters how they come to you with this story. So it's hard to, say, okay, well, you weren't murdered in the woods. We're going to have you give birth on a cruise ship. I mean, it's like a totally different story. And your
Right.
muse, I mean, my muse is, I don't know about you, my muse would argue with me and be like, no, that's not what happened. Don't try to tell another story. And,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
so that's, so actually in the last 7 days, I have a point of view character in that book, Sky. She was never meant to be as a point of view character. She was a side character, but she was so loud and so strong that I had to write her story. So now she is one of the point of view characters, and there's a scene in the book that, that character, Gia, um it came to me, and I had one way I wanted the scene to go, and she's like, "No, that's not what happened." And I wrote it, and the scene is very dark. And honestly, after I read that scene once, I can't go back and look at it again because
yeah,
it's
no, I totally know that feeling. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, you have to give them what they want.
Mhm, mhm.
So, all right. So you're writing women's contemporary fiction. I mean, obviously it's a fictional tale. It's for women, it's about women. How did you figure out like the genre you were going to put it in? Because, some people would just start writing a story and they're like, I don't know where this fits in the bookstore or what
Mhm.
genre to put this under. Was that something you researched? Is this something that, you just knew right away?
Right. So as you mentioned in the intro, I've been a lifelong reader and I read across genres, but I always seem to come back to women's fiction. I'll go through a spell of, like psychological thrillers or sci-fis, but I always come back to this. So when it was time for me to write, it felt the most comfortable to write a contemporary women's fiction. And even when you look at the tropes in the book, they're all, the women fiction tropes. There's, sisterhood, strained relationships, main characters being flawed women. It all lends itself to women's contemporary
Yeah.
women's fiction. Now, the book that's living in my head now is a psychological thriller, and it may need to marinate for a while because, like I said, my comfort level is definitely contemporary women's fiction.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm a fan of, reading about spirituality and mysticism and, kind of interest me in that. And I'm not a fan of reading murder mysteries. However, I do love watching, shows like that. So
Mhm.
trying to write the murder mystery, it marinated in my head for a long time, which made me very uncomfortable with it. And I knew I had to get it on the paper. But you do tend to write what you know and you're
Mhm.
going to write for the audience that is yourself because if you know
Mhm.
that audience that women's contemporary fiction you already know there's an audience built in because it's yourself.
Mhm.
So now let's get to the cover. So a
Okay.
couple things. One, both books, show the other book again, both books have two chairs, so there's this conversational piece that shows right when you see it why. I mean, the first book, on the seventh day, we know it's about women on a cruise ship. So it's very appropriate that you have the two lounge chairs on the cruise ship. I see that.
Mhm.
The second one, you're on the porch, you get this beautiful sun setting. Again, me with my two questions always coming out. How did you get these book covers and why did you choose those?
Mhm. So with both books, I worked with a self-publishing consultant. There were 2 different ones. Both were awesome, and they, uh, t to go off topic, but they did everything for me. They, did some editing, they did the book covers, and they even uploaded the books to Amazon.
Okay.
The first book, on the 7th day, um, that I did want a, the cruise scene. But if you notice, my characters, there's 3 main characters, but there's only 2 chairs. There is a reason for that, and as you read the book, you understand
Mhm.
why.
Cool.
Um, so this one, I knew exactly what I wanted. The last 7 days, I knew I wanted, some pieces that were a continuation of the first one. So I wanted the 2 chairs, I wanted the book to reflect the setting, and I wanted this bracelet, this infinity bracelet on the book because that bracelet plays a very important role in the story. So I just gave those elements to the designer, thinking there's no way she'll be able to put all of these elements onto the cover.
So the designer is with a company that's a self-publishing consultant that you hired.
Yes.
How did you find them?
Both I found, on Facebook, just through, different groups that
Yeah.
once I got the writing bug that I joined, and I just started asking for referrals.
That's awesome. So it's great that, you can, for writers out there who have that thought in their head of what they want their book to look like, if they're not a photographer or an artist to draw this, to be able to hire a publishing consultant and say, okay, I want it to be on a porch. I want the sun to be rising
Mhm,
or setting with the, two chairs and this friendship infinity bracelet and see what they come up with, which is,
mhm.
good because I know, for me, I had to search through a lot of, iStock photos, which is where I got my Dear Baby Get Out. I bought the photo for this one, even though a lot of people think it's my belly, but it's not. um, but yeah, trying to get, the covers for them is very interesting. Um, all right, so now back to the writing part. Why the number 7?
So, I would love to say
Because I'm into
that
numerology, you know
yes, yeah, I know that. Um, I would love to say that there was some, like, deep symbolic meaning. The number 7 actually is a very important number in my faith, so I would love to say that's the why. But really, the stories themselves, just like the characters spoke the, um, the plot line to me, the stories themselves, they just kind of, spoke the titles to me. On the last 7th day, takes place on a cruise ship, and everything happens on that 7th day. And
Oh,
again, there's a reason that there's 2 chairs and not 3, even though there's 3 main characters. The last 7 days, the second book, those 7 is the same structure where, every day is a the book is split into 7 days. Um, and it's actually the 7 days that preceded the epilogue in the first book. So that's why that one is called The Last 7 Days.
I love that. And 7 is the number for like completion and
Mhm,
the world is
mhm.
created in 7 days and
Yes.
and my Dear Baby Get Out book is the final days of pregnancy. It's like the last 7 days of being
Oh, wow.
pregnant. So we got like the 777 going on, which is pretty
Yes.
cool. Very cool. So when you were doing your first book, well, I guess when you were doing both of your books, when you were writing, did you know what the ending, like how you were going to end the book? Like, I know you said you Googled like how many words or how many pages is an actual novel. You got to write 500 words a day to try to get that out. And, you tend to be more of a pantser for it. But like, did you have that, you have your timeline of 7 days knowing, okay, this is what's happening on the seventh day.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so for the first book, um, yeah, they for the first book, no, I'm sorry, can you can you repeat the
Did you
question?
know how it was going to end?
Oh,
Because
yes, yes, I'm
you knew
sorry.
something important. No, I know on the first first book, I mean, you said a lot happens on that
Yeah,
seventh day. So did you
yeah,
know that before you began it?
yeah. So before I began the book, I knew exactly how I wanted that book to end. So I had a roadmap. With the second book, I knew the character and I knew the setting, but I didn't know how I wanted the book to end. And it actually, now that I'm into writing, I know that I am a planner. Um, so not knowing how the book would end, I struggled a lot. I actually wrote one full story and read it, and I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right. So I started all over and wrote the second one. Same thing happened. And finally that what if piece came to me. And I knew what the end was, and I was able to write to that. The book that lives in my head, even though I haven't did any like pen to paper, I know exactly how I want that book to end.
Nice. Nice. Well, I'm excited to know that you got another book in you coming out for
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
That's exciting. Um, all right, so I'm getting hungry. I want I want to know you're the self-proclaimed foodie, so you love food. Is it that you love to eat or you love to cook?
I love to eat. I love to eat. I love to watch cooking shows, and I like when classics are twisted, like an eggs Benedict with a completely different meat, or
Ooh.
a chicken and waffles with the chicken prepared in a different way. Um,
Ah,
yes,
it's like how you create characters.
yes, exactly,
Oh,
exactly. You
I love
start,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I
You start
love
with an
that.
inspiration. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's how she was creating her characters, mixing this and mixing that together.
Hmm.
So are you a fan of all the weird food that's out? You know, like popcorn that tastes like bubble gum, or like the Willy
Yes.
Wonka weird foods?
Well, I like it all. I like the really high-end chefy foods,
Okay.
and I like the playful foods that look like one thing and taste like something else.
Yeah, it's always weird when you're, going to eat a candy cane and it starts to taste like, I don't know, a chicken McNugget, which is even weird to say because I think they really do have that. That's just so
Mhm,
weird.
mhm,
Now I want to say like what's next in your life, but I know what's next. You have another book that you're writing, which
mhm,
is awesome. And this, the last 7 days has been out now for a couple months, correct?
mhm, mhm.
And you're off promoting it. What do you do to promote it?
Initially, I do a lot of stuff online, so Facebook contests and things like that. I
Oh,
did do a book signing early on. I haven't done anything lately. I do have a couple things planned for the end of the year.
nice, nice. So where can they get information about you? Where can they find your book?
Mhm. They can find my book on Amazon.com.
Okay.
And as far as where they can find me, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I'm more active on Facebook.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
best way to engage with me is through my website. They People can go online and sign up for my newsletter
Oh,
that comes out probably about 4 or 5 times a year.
nice. And do you update what you're writing on? What you're working
Yes,
on?
yeah,
Nice. Oh,
I
I love
update
that. So
yeah, yeah.
what is your website where they can get the newsletter sign up?
It's www.tamikoRevans.com.
All right, I'm going to put that link below. I'm also going to put the link to your Facebook page, which I think is the same thing, right? But the name with
Mhm.
author afterwards,
Yeah, yeah.
Tamiko R Evans, author. So yeah, I'll put those on there. This has been really, really, really great. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the people out there who are going to be reading your books because you're all going to Amazon after this and you're going to buy your book and read. You got two great reads to do. And then, of course, those writing, I mean, we found out a lot of information. So thank you for sharing. One last thing, you love salted caramel, so do you like the milk chocolate or the dark chocolate?
Oh, actually, I like salted caramel anything.
Oh,
And I was at the store yesterday and came upon another like salted caramel flavored item. So I'm
ooh,
excited about it. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited about it. Between dark and milk, milk chocolate for sure.
Nice. Okay. All right. I just like my chocolate, so I'll take it either because chocolate's healthy for you. Well,
Yes,
Tamiko,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I know the readers and the writers out there definitely have learned something from the show. So thank you very much. And I want to thank Studio 954 for making this show possible to get it out, not only streaming online on all the platforms, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're watching it. Please like, share, and comment. And if you're watching on your local cable access, tell them thank you for having yWrite on there because we appreciate it. If you don't have it in your area, then contact them and say, we want yWrite on our local cable access channel. So this is the time in the program where I give the writers a writing prompt. And Tamiko, because we were talking about, creating food taste and creating characters, I want my audience, if you're out there writing, when this show's over, you're going to set your timer for 10 minutes and you're going to work on a little character development today. And I'm not talking about developing your own character. I'm talking about developing a character for the book. So what I want you to do is you can write about it or you can make lists because lists can help create some character habits or hobbies that they do. Maybe, if you want to write about what they look like, that's fine, but get their personality on the page. Tell us what their flaws are. Do they have really large feet? Do they only buy Gucci purses? And do they only wear certain types of clothing? Or are they constantly obsessed with going to yoga class? Write these things down so that you have a list of the character, description, not what she's wearing, what she's looking, but what she's like or what he's like. So take 10 minutes today, write down some character stuff, and maybe, just ask your character what they're like because they will talk to you. They definitely do. So thank you for tuning into this episode of yWrite. Tamiko, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day.